I never imagined my wedding day would begin with silence. No music, no laughter, no nervous giggles with my bridesmaids. Just silence. And eyes. So many eyes on me. I stood there inside the courthouse, in a white dress that suddenly felt heavy. Nathan was at the front, smiling like nothing was wrong. His hair was slicked back, his suit was tailored, and he looked every bit the charming man everyone believed he was. But I couldn't take another step toward him. The judge had just asked if we were ready to begin. My mom stood to my left, clutching a small bouquet. Lila was behind me, her lips tight. There were about 30 people in the room. Family, friends, co-workers, all waiting. Nathan extended his hand to me. "You look beautiful," he whispered. I didn't answer. I just looked at him, looked through him. My hands were cold. My heart was steady, not racing like I thought it would be. It was calm, strangely calm, like the eye of a storm. "Emily?" the judge asked gently. I blinked. Then slowly, I turned around. I didn't say a word. I didn't explain. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a phone. My heels echoed on the courthouse floor as I walked past rows of confused faces. People were whispering my name. Some called out. I didn't stop. I kept walking. The glass doors opened with a soft whoosh. The air outside felt sharp and clean, like freedom. And there, parked right at the curb, was a dusty green pickup truck. The driver door opened. A man stepped out. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a gray shirt. He didn't smile. He didn't ask questions. He opened the passenger door. I climbed in. The whispers and stares from inside the courthouse were now behind tinted glass. Nathan came rushing out, yelling something I didn't care to hear. The truck started. We drove away. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The road stretched out ahead of us, endless and empty. I stared out the window as buildings turned into trees. I could still feel the pressure of everyone's eyes on me, the confusion, the judgment, the disbelief. But you know what? I didn't care. Because they didn't know. They didn't know what I had learned the night before. They didn't know the truth about the man I was about to marry. They didn't know why I walked out of my own wedding. And they certainly didn't know who the man driving the truck was. But I did. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt like I was finally doing the right thing. Let's talk, viewers. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you walk away at the altar, or go through with it just to avoid the shame? Comment below. I'm reading every single one. And if this story already has you hooked, hit like so more people can hear it. We're only just getting started. The night before my wedding should have been magical. It started that way. I was alone in my hotel suite, curled up on the edge of the bed in my robe, sipping cold tea and rereading my vows. My hair was already washed and wrapped in a towel. My dress was hanging on the closet door, glowing in the lamplight like something out of a dream. Everything felt quiet, still, too still. I should have been excited, giddy. But instead, my hands kept shaking. I kept checking my phone. I don't even know why. Nathan had already sent me a goodnight text. "Can't wait to see you walk toward me tomorrow. I love you." I stared at it too long. Something about it felt off. I shook my head, trying to laugh it off. "It's just nerves," I told myself. "Everyone gets cold feet before the wedding, right?" I put the phone down and reached for my journal, hoping writing would calm me. That's when I heard it. A soft knock at the door. Not loud, just 2 taps. I slipped on my slippers and padded across the carpet, thinking maybe it was Lila dropping off something sweet like she always did. But when I opened the door, there was no one there. Just a plain white envelope on the floor. No name. No handwriting. I picked it up, confused. The hallway was quiet. Empty. Back inside, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the flap. At first, I thought it was a mistake, that someone had slipped it under the wrong door. But then I saw the name Nathan typed on the top page. My heart dropped. I read the first few lines, then read them again. My fingers started to tingle. I wasn't breathing. There were 3 pages, each one worse than the last. I stood up halfway through the second and paced the room, holding the papers like they were on fire. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But all I could do was sit down again. I read them over and over. I checked the phone to see if Nathan had texted again. He hadn't. I looked around the room, the candles, the silk robe, the overnight bag, the makeup kit laid out on the vanity. Everything that said bride. And yet, I didn't feel like one anymore. I felt played, used. I pulled my knees up to my chest on the bed and stared at the dress hanging across from me. So much had gone into planning this wedding. The dress fittings, the guest list, the courthouse appointment, my mom's tears, my dad's toast, Lila helping me choose the flowers. But now, it all felt like a joke. Like I was the last person to find out something everyone else already knew. I stayed up most of that night. The sun was rising when I finally pulled the blanket over my body. I didn't sleep. I just closed my eyes and pretended everything would be okay. But deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. When something breaks inside you, it doesn't happen all at once. It cracks in quiet places first. Places you ignore because you want to believe. That morning, lying in bed with the curtains barely open, I kept asking myself the same thing. How didn't I see it sooner? Looking back now, the signs were there. Small, but real. Like the night Nathan canceled dinner with my mom last minute. Said his car broke down. But later, I saw on his Instagram story that he was out with friends at some rooftop bar. When I asked him about it, he said, "Oh babe, that was from last week. It just posted late." I believed him. Or the time I asked to meet his family. We'd been together for over a year, and he'd met mine more than once. Every time I brought it up, he'd make some excuse. "My family's complicated," he said once. "They live far. It's not the right time. You wouldn't enjoy it. They're super formal." I told myself it didn't matter, that we were building our own future, that I didn't need to know everything about his past. But deep down, it stung. Then there was the ring. He proposed out of nowhere. No build-up, no talk about timing or plans. Just pulled it out one night while we were watching TV and said, "Marry me." I was shocked. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. He said he didn't want a big production. "Let's just make it simple," he told me. "Courthouse, just us. We don't need a fairy tale." At the time, it sounded romantic, like something out of a movie. Now I wondered if it was just convenient. He kept pushing to get married within the month, told me, "Why wait? When you know, you know." I was the one who slowed it down. I wanted time to prepare, to get my dress, to involve my mom. And the prenup. That conversation was short. Too short. I remember telling him I wanted to include a prenup, just to protect both of us. He laughed and said, "You don't trust me?" I said it was just being smart. He nodded and said, "We'll handle it later." But we never did. Every time I brought it up again, he'd change the subject. At the time, I thought he was just uncomfortable talking about legal stuff. A lot of people are. But now, I knew better. Then there was his phone, always face down, always on silent. He said it helped him focus, that he didn't like distractions. Once I walked into the room and saw him jump and shove his phone into his pocket. When I asked about it, he smiled and said, "Work emergency, nothing big." And I let it go. Because I wanted to trust him. I chose to trust him. Over and over again. Even when Lila said something wasn't right. She didn't like him from the start. "He's too slick," she said. "There's something behind those eyes." I defended him every time. Told her she just didn't know him like I did. But maybe She knew more than I did. Sitting on that hotel bed, clutching that awful envelope in my lap, all the pieces started falling into place. The lies weren't loud. They weren't in big, bold letters. They whispered. They hinted. And I ignored every single one. Because I loved him. Or at least I thought I did. But now I was starting to wonder if I ever really knew the man I almost married. I didn't eat breakfast the morning of the wedding. I couldn't. My stomach was in knots and my mouth was dry no matter how much water I drank. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the envelope again. The pages were a little bent now from how many times I had read them. I wasn't crying anymore. The shock had worn off and something colder had taken its place. I didn't feel like a bride. I felt like a detective. Nathan texted me a couple of times that morning. "Sleep well? I hope you're not too nervous. I'm counting down the minutes." I replied once. "I'll see you soon." He sent a heart emoji. I didn't answer. Around 10:30, he came by the hotel, said he just wanted to see me for a minute. "Just to calm the nerves," he said through the door. I let him in. I had already decided. I needed to keep calm, keep things normal, at least on the surface. He hugged me tightly. I forced myself to hug him back. "You okay?" he asked, pulling back to look at me. I nodded. "Just wedding nerves." He smiled and kissed my forehead. "You're going to be my wife today." I nodded again. He stepped into the room and sat on the little sofa by the window. He pulled out his phone and started checking something, probably messages. I watched him carefully. I sat across from him and forced a smile. "What's everyone saying?" He grinned. "Aunt Tina's already crying and she's not even there yet." He laughed. "Wants pictures of everything." I laughed lightly, but my eyes were on his phone. He was using it with one hand, kind of distracted, and then he set it down on the armrest and reached for his water bottle. The screen lit up, and just like that, a message preview popped up. I don't know what came over me. My body moved before I could think. While he twisted the cap off his drink, I leaned over and picked up the phone. "Hey," he said, surprised. "I just want to take a quick selfie for us." I lied, already turning the phone slightly away from him. He didn't stop me. I opened the messages. There, at the very top, was a thread with a woman's name I didn't recognize. I clicked it, and what I saw made my heart slam against my ribs. There were messages from yesterday, and the day before, photos, emojis, voice notes. "I miss you already. You know this wedding means nothing. You're the one I love. After the ceremony, we'll figure everything out. Be patient." I couldn't move. The woman had sent a selfie in a red dress. She was beautiful, too beautiful. Then I saw one line that burned into my memory. "She still doesn't know, just one more day." Nathan leaned forward. "Babe, what are you looking at?" I turned the screen toward him. My hand didn't shake. His face changed, the color drained. He blinked fast. "Emily, wait, let me explain." I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. I took a screenshot. Then another, and another. I emailed them to myself, right there in front of him. Then I set the phone down, gently, like it wasn't a bomb that had just gone off in my hand. He stood up, panicked. "It's not what it looks like, I swear." I looked him straight in the eye. "Get out." "Please, just let me talk." "Out," I repeated. He hesitated, then finally turned and walked out, leaving the door halfway open behind him. I stood in the silence of that hotel room, the dress still hanging on the closet door, the sun shining through the curtains. And I knew then, this wedding was never going to happen. After Nathan left my hotel room, I just stood there for a long time. My phone buzzed with missed calls and texts, but I didn't check them. I already knew who they were from. I walked over to the mirror and looked at myself. My face was pale. My eyes looked hollow. I didn't look like a bride. I looked like someone who had just stepped out of a nightmare. But I wasn't going to sit there and cry anymore. I needed answers. I pulled out the envelope again, the one that had been slipped under my door. This time, I paid closer attention. At the very bottom of the third page, there was a line I had overlooked before. If you want proof from someone who's seen it firsthand, meet me at Carter's Cafe on Main before noon. Ask for Luke. I didn't know who Luke was, but something about the way the letter was written, so calm, so sure, made me believe it wasn't a prank. I got dressed quickly. No makeup, just jeans, a hoodie, and sneakers. I left through the back of the hotel so I wouldn't run into any guests. The sky was cloudy when I stepped outside. Everything looked gray. Carter's Cafe wasn't far, just 10 minutes by car. I drove with both hands tight on the wheel, heart pounding the whole way. The cafe was small, warm, and quiet. The smell of coffee hit me the moment I stepped inside. People were sipping lattes, working on laptops. No one looked up. I walked to the counter. A young barista smiled at me. "Can I help you?" I leaned in. "I'm looking for someone named Luke." She glanced over my shoulder and nodded. "He's in the back, corner table." I turned and saw him. A man in a gray shirt and jeans, mid-30s, short beard, calm eyes. He looked up as I approached. "Emily?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Sit," he said gently. I slid into the seat across from him. He didn't smile. He didn't blink too much. He just looked like someone who had waited a long time for this conversation. "I'm Luke," he said. "I'm the one who left the envelope." My voice was low. "Why?" "Because someone needed to." He folded his hands on the table. "And you deserve to know who you're marrying." My throat tightened. "How do you know Nathan?" He exhaled slowly. "My sister. Her name's Camilla. She was in a relationship with him for over a year. Until 3 days ago, she thought she was the only one." I froze. Luke reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He tapped a few times and turned it toward me. Photos, texts, screenshots. There was Nathan, smiling, laughing, kissing a woman on the cheek. "Camilla. I'm not showing you this to hurt you," Luke said. "I'm showing you because you're walking into something that isn't real." I stared at the screen. My stomach twisted. "Why didn't your sister come?" "She's heartbroken. She didn't even know about you until a few days ago. She found a receipt in his wallet with your name on it. The dress shop. That's when she started asking questions." I nodded slowly, taking it in. "She was going to confront him herself," he added. But I stopped her. I told her, "Let me handle it. Let me warn the other woman before it's too late." I felt tears press behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. "He told her he was only marrying you for money," Luke said carefully. "That he'd leave once he got what he needed." I covered my mouth with one hand. My body felt numb. "You don't owe me a reaction," Luke added. "I just wanted you to have the truth. What you do with it, that's your choice." I looked at him, really looked at him. There was no smugness, no pressure, just honesty. I took a breath, then another. "Thank you," I whispered. He gave me a short nod. "Whatever you decide, I hope it brings you peace." I stood up, shaky but clear. I walked out of the cafe into the cloudy afternoon. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done pretending. The morning of my wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection like I was trying to recognize the woman in the dress. The same white gown I had once dreamed about. The one I spent hours picking out with my mom. It still looked beautiful, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. The air in the room was too quiet. Even the sounds outside, traffic, birds, people, all seemed far away, like I was trapped behind a window, watching my life happen without me. Lila was there, helping me with my hair. She had no idea. She thought I was just nervous. "You okay?" she asked softly as she curled a piece behind my ear. I smiled faintly. Yeah. She looked at me a little longer. Her eyes were searching mine. You don't have to do this if you're not sure, Em. I almost told her. Almost. But I wasn't ready yet. Instead, I nodded. I'm sure. I wasn't lying. I was sure. Just not in the way she thought. My mom walked in a few minutes later, her eyes already glistening with happy tears. You look like an angel, she whispered. I hugged her. She squeezed me tight. Your father would have been so proud, she said. I swallowed hard. I know. The ride to the courthouse was quiet. I sat in the back seat of the car with my bouquet in my lap, watching the buildings pass by in a blur. Nathan texted once. I'm here. Can't wait to see you. I didn't reply. The courthouse was already full when we arrived. Guests were seated, phones were out. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. Lila helped me out of the car. You ready? I nodded. My mom smoothed the back of my dress as we walked up the steps. I felt the weight of it all in my chest, but my feet were steady. My heart wasn't racing anymore. I knew what I came to do. As the doors opened, people turned in their seats to look at me. Cameras flashed. I kept my head high. The judge stood at the front, waiting. Nathan stood beside him, smiling like he had already won. I walked slowly down the aisle, each step soft but certain. My mom and Lila walked behind me. Someone whispered, "She looks stunning." I could hear it all, but none of it touched me. I was far away, inside myself. When I reached the front, I stopped. Nathan reached out for my hand. Hey, he whispered, eyes full of love, or something pretending to be love. You made it. I looked at him, not just at his face, but deeper, past the charm, past the lies. I didn't take his hand. The judge cleared his throat, ready to begin. Are we all set? I didn't answer. I just stood there, still, silent. I looked around the room, all those faces smiling, waiting, believing they were witnessing something beautiful. But I wasn't going to lie to them, not anymore, not to myself either. I turned to my mother and gently handed her the bouquet. She looked confused but didn't say a word. Then I turned back to face Nathan. I'm sorry, I said softly. And then I turned and walked, back down the aisle, back past the gasps, back past the blinking phones and stunned whispers, back toward the doors. And out of the life I was never meant to live. The courthouse doors shut behind me with a soft thud. The noise inside, the gasps, the murmurs, Nathan's voice calling my name, all faded. Outside, the sunlight had broken through the clouds. It hit my face like a quiet blessing. And there it was, the truck, parked right where it had been before. Same dusty green paint, same quiet engine running. Luke stepped out as I approached, like he'd been waiting all along. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. He just opened the passenger door. I climbed in without a word. Nathan burst through the doors behind me, shouting. I didn't turn to look. I didn't need to. The truck pulled away slowly, and in the side mirror, I saw the courthouse growing smaller and smaller. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel ashamed. I felt free. We drove for a long time in silence. The wind came through the open window, brushing across my face, tugging at the veil I'd forgotten was still clipped into my hair. Luke glanced over at one point and asked, You okay? I nodded. I think I am. He smiled a little and kept driving. I watched the trees blur past and thought about everything that had happened. The envelope, the screenshots, the truth. I'd spent so much of my life trying to be the good girl, the kind partner, the forgiving daughter, the easygoing friend, the type of woman who always gave second chances. But not today. Today, I had chosen me. I had walked out of a courthouse in a white dress with my head held high. Not because I was running away, but because I was walking toward something better. Something honest. Something that wasn't built on lies. Eventually, Luke pulled into a quiet park near the edge of town. There was a wide stretch of grass and a wooden bench facing a small pond. We sat. The sun warmed my arms, and the world felt still again. But this time, in a good way. You know, Luke said after a moment, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. Walking out, I mean. I looked at him. Neither did I. But when I saw him standing there, acting like nothing was wrong, I just couldn't do it. He nodded. You did the right thing. I believed him. We sat there for a while, watching the water ripple. Ducks drifted across the pond, and somewhere nearby, kids were laughing. I slipped off my heels and pressed my bare feet into the grass. It felt grounding, real, like I was part of the earth again, not floating in some fake dream someone else had built for me. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For telling me the truth, for giving me a chance to make my own choice. He shrugged. You deserved that. Everyone does. We sat until the sun started to dip behind the trees. Neither of us rushed to leave. There was nowhere we had to be. Eventually, I stood, brushing off my dress. I should call my mom, I said. Let her know I'm okay. Luke nodded. Want me to wait? I smiled. Yeah, just a little longer. As I stepped a few feet away and dialed, I looked back at him. The stranger who wasn't really a stranger anymore. The man who had shown me more honesty in one day than the person I almost married ever had. And I knew then. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the first honest page.